Hello, hello. It's time for some malware. Make sure the bot is running correctly. Hello, Mr. Ripple. Good to see you as always. Where is my WSL window? Hello, hello. I was almost really organized and got everything ready for the stream, and then I didn't. So the bot has some cool new features now, which I think I put in the stream title. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. Let me make sure this is all set up correctly. Let's see. Is this public? This is not public. Alright. Change visibility, public. Why type when I can copy paste? Alright. Cool. I broke it. Oh, it's not running, is it? No. Cool. Good stuff. That's working. That's working. Alright, let's get the tunes rolling. The tunes that aren't gonna get me copyright striked. Okay, this should be working. Not playing. Beautiful. CSS is still garbage, but whatever, good enough. Okay, let's get started, shall we? So the sample we're working on tonight is MountLocker. Depending on how this goes, I think there's a couple things I want to start with, kind of ease our way into it. There was a sample I was working on. Let's take a look at. There were 3 versions where it was being built on. I only got through the first couple, but there was a user on a forum advertising their ransomware. So we can take a look at that. The initial version was advertised as like a .NET version of Ryuk, but it turns out it's not Ryuk. They just took the name Ryuk, which is it's a very widespread ransomware family that has a lot of name recognition. So they took the name Ryuk and used that to build their own brand. Turns out it's just a wiper. It overwrites files with random bytes and doesn't actually do anything. And it also inserts a filter that monitors clipboard contents. And whenever something matches a regex for Bitcoin wallets, it replaces it with their own wallet. If you have questions as I'm going through and working on stuff, I have the Twitch chat open. I'm also keeping it on Discord, so you can feel free to message or post questions wherever. You ever done any smart contract analysis? I did a little bit for NSA Codebreaker a couple years ago, but I haven't done any real analysis of smart contracts. I think with smart contracts, it's very interesting technology. I'm just very jaded on cryptocurrency and I really don't care. But one of the interesting things I think in that space is the whole concept of a smart contract that runs on the blockchain. I think that's pretty interesting. I know there have been some CTF challenges around that, but I haven't really taken a look at it. Gotcha. Yeah, they do a lot of crypto, like source code validation, like white box testing, right? I feel like I've seen some blog posts and reports come out for that. Let's see. Where is their thing? There it is. Okay. So yeah, so this is black white box stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's cool. Hopefully that was enjoyable. Okay, so this is this Ryuk.net ransomware. We'll take a look at this real quick, and then we'll jump into the MountLocker stuff. So I will preface this by saying this is all being done in a VM. So be careful, like if you do your own malware analysis, make sure you get a secure environment set up. Don't accidentally infect yourself and have malware spread to other environments. You can do bang malware in the chat to read some information about doing malware analysis. But essentially, just be careful what you do. Flare VMs are a great way to do this. Point a link for that. Is it Flare-VM? It is Flare-VM. So the Flare VM is a tool from FireEye that can be used to set up a malware analysis environment. So you set up a VM, install Windows 10, then you run their collection of PowerShell scripts, and it sets up a bunch of tooling. So this is a Flare VM. This is the logo for the Flare team. So we've got a bunch of tooling that's pre-set up. It gives you a really great starting point to build your own malware analysis environment. Another thing to be careful about is having your VM connected to the internet. This VM currently is not connected to the internet, but I have a secure network environment that I can route it out through so it can get to the internet if need be, and not bring undue risks to myself or other people on my local network. Okay, so this is the ransomware. It's a fairly skid level. This is like a builder for it, and it goes and generates binaries for you. Let's see. So the tool that I'm using right here is called dnspy. dnspy is a tool that can decompile C# in Visual Basic binaries. And the reason it's able to do this is it uses, so C# and Visual Basic both use the .NET runtime. And so when you compile a C# binary, it compiles to an intermediate language, kind of like Java. So when you take those bytecodes, you're able to build it back up in kind of like a one-to-one fashion using the data that wasn't stripped out of the binary. So specific things like variable names could be lost, but there's a ton of information. It's much clearer what happened in the source code than if you're like decompiling C++ or something, because a lot more data is retained. It's easier to go backwards. There's not much information that gets lost. So as like I'm scrolling through this, a lot of this code is being hooked up to the various elements of this user interface. So some of this is like when I like resize the window, some of this code is being called. And some of this code is not very good. But like that's kind of what they're attempting to have happen. Instead of doing it the correct way, which is like defining constraints on UI elements, they're just kind of janking it together by checking for what happens and updating location values. There are cleaner ways of doing this. And so at this point, this shaped button 4, we can kind of guess based on everything that's happening here, that this is what happens when we click this build button. We can actually look at this and validate it by comparing the code for the actual form and what the call button is. So we can, I think that's this tab. Yes, so we know that we're looking for something called shaped button 4. So we can scroll. This tool lags out on me. Look for shaped button 4. Where they got renamed. Well, this could be the wrong form. Let's make the wrong form. So this system has a couple different elements. I think that form we're just looking at was this window. So in .NET, there's a basic version, there's a basic system to build user interfaces called WinForms. It allows you to programmatically define the construct of the window using C#, and you can get very simple interfaces, but really quickly, but it lacks in the capability to make very complex things, which is where people might go to like XAML interfaces or something, which uses like XML schemas, and you can build custom UI elements and such. Like WinForms is a great way to build like basic quick things. It's kind of like all of the C# development I've done that's GUI, I just used WinForms. This is probably operating off of a separate form. It's off this form. So we can look. Here we go. Okay. So looking for shaped button 4. Yeah, shaped button 4. Oh, I just saw it and then it lagged and kept scrolling. I think I need to bump the specs on this VM up a little bit. So here we have shaped button 4. And so we can see all the properties are being defined for this element. So the button text is build, which is this button right there. And then we can see there's going to be a click event. Yeah, click. And so when this button gets clicked, the .NET runtime will call events that are hooked up to this trigger. So click on that, and it brings us this function. Can someone in the chat confirm if the text is big enough? Do I need to make this larger? In the preview, it seems like it might be big enough, but it also might not be big enough. Make it bigger? Okay. So can I control plus this? Oh, I can. Okay. How is this? Please put the aviators on. I don't know if I can read a computer screen with them all. Let's find out. By request of Mr. Baba Yetu. There we go. I can read the screen pretty good. I can work with this. There we go. Alright, CF1 his affection. I can work with that. Okay. So, okay. Text is big enough. That's good. If anyone from Corelight is watching the stream, I will continue plugging your products if you sponsor me. Unless, if Corelight is going to start getting into the water bottle business, that'd be pretty fun. For those who aren't familiar, Corelight is a network security company, but they also have really nice swag. So if you ever get the chance to get your hands on some Corelight swag, would recommend. I have a few shirts and some stickers and some random stuff from those guys. They're pretty chill. Okay, so once we build the malware using the build button, it takes the different values from these text fields and does some validation on them. So it goes through and it validates them. And it makes sure that everything is correct. And at some point at the end, it asks where do we save it, and then it generates this new compiler object. So here in the compiler, this is actually using some .NET code that allows you to compile .NET assemblies from within .NET. So let's see, this is, C# code provider, compile assembly from source. So I don't know very much, but I don't know I can Google. So I think it's this one. So if we take some .NET, if we have some like C# or .NET source code, we can use this method to actually compile it into an assembly. An assembly is like a binary once you go and drop it into a disk, and then you can save that on disk, and it's like the output binary. So that's how it doesn't need like Visual Studio or GCC or anything like that to be installed. It can just use the .NET runtime to compile down to the IL and build a binary. So it takes all the objects and then it saves it onto disk. The interesting part is once we go look at the source code. Source code, compiler, source code. So this is being taken as an argument. Text, what is text? Text comes from, ooh, I scrolled too far. Resources.source, okay. So we click on that, and this is a resource. So resource is a way of like embedding a file or some piece of data into our binary. Do OSINT via the reflection. Let's see. I don't think you can find much. I hope you can't. I don't have any like sticky noted passwords to my monitor, unfortunately. Let's see. If anyone does glean something interesting from this reflection, maybe we'll start a little bug bounty program. I'll Venmo you $1. A little bigger. One more if you don't mind. Okay, I just saw that Discord message. Okay. Okay. If this isn't big enough, message me again. That was 4 minutes ago, so I may have already solved it. Okay. So we can go into the resources and take a look at this one called source. I think it's in the black form. No. Here we go. Okay. Source. So this is the actual source code for the output ransomware. I'm glad Nick approves. Ah, where are the gloves? Where are the gloves? No hacker is complete without the fingerless black gloves. It's a good thing I have AC. Also, these gloves are not from the same set. Is this one gray? No. Okay, close enough. They're the right color, I think. So, fun fact. Fingerless gloves, you hack at least 20% faster. It's 100 degrees here. That sucks. I have AC in my room, but it's 81 degrees outside. Yeah, the gloves are gonna come off pretty quick because even with the AC on, it's not like massively cold in my room. The AC is not super effective in this building. Okay, so here is our ransomware. There are a lot of common things that we see in ransomware that are going on here. So like this is a list of extensions that presumably it's going to encrypt. Then we see it pulls some native methods, which we're going to come back to this. And then it does all sorts of boring stuff. We see there's some random byte generation, generates random strings, also like this. But the main thing I'm curious about is the crypto. And I kind of spoiled this one already that doesn't actually do any encryption, it just overwrites files. So this encrypt directory, actually, I had this with source code highlighting somewhere. Because I've already gone through this. Also, with my decreased vision, the odds of me missing a message on Discord are significantly higher. Just a heads up. But I'm trying my best to keep an eye on stuff. Okay, here we go. So with source code highlighting, this will be much nicer. So let's start with how the actual encryption happens, or encryption. So we can see that we're working with a really skilled malware developer here. Oh, I made this go past the... There we go. working with a really skilled developer here because there are commented out pieces of code where they were debugging stuff using message boxes. So there are a number of things in this file that signal to me that the person that made this was very low complexity. Like the malware developer that made this sample is not the same caliber of actor doing like Colonial Pipeline or Kaseya level hacks. Although the Kaseya stuff was a bit of a mess. That was not a super sophisticated adversary either, because that was not done very smartly. But like the Colonial Pipeline stuff, this is not that caliber of actors. Like this is Musho level. This is like the type of actor that is doing skid level malware via Discord to steal Discord Nitro PayPal accounts, so they can get all of the big animated emotes from every server they use. I need to make sure I'll pull my password manager. You can see everything in these classes. Look at the camera's pretty small. But Bava Yetu, if you're long conning me, I have ultimate respect. Okay. So let's actually take a look at this. So system.io.directory.get files. This is going to enumerate all the files in a certain directory, which is this argument. So we see that this one is being called recursively. So it starts at some root location. Whoops. Do I have Vim mode? Ah, darn. I feel like doing networking. Okay. If you don't use Vim mode in VS Code, highly recommend it. If you don't use Vim, highly recommend it. Greatly increases your productivity. I can't confirm. Yeah, Vim plus the fingerless gloves. Ugh. The world is your oyster. There's nothing that can stop you beyond your own imagination. So we go through the directory, we're finding all the files. So this is turning an array that has all the files in this directory. And so we're checking the file names. And let's see. So now we're checking if it's a valid file extension. Remember, this is a list of file extensions that we want to encrypt. Some types of file extensions aren't desirable to encrypt. It's really common for some malware does like an allow list of I only want to encrypt these extensions. Others do a block list of I don't want to encrypt these extensions. Really common things to exclude is like .exe and .sys, things like that, because that will break the computer from booting up. Or it might fail because the files are locked for writing, because it's an executable and it's used for running process, so it's not going to work. So in this case, we have a list of extensions, and we take a look at it's mostly like documents and things like that. So txt, png, ISO is a slightly interesting one. Wallet, iBank, I'm guessing that's also a crypto-related thing. VMs, that's interesting. PowerPoint, Word, Excel, things like that. So the ransomware is really targeting the data, which makes sense. And where were we? We're over here. So if it's one of these valid extensions and it's not the ransom note, which is in readit.txt, it checks. The code is pretty garbage, but essentially it's checking the size and then does the same thing in both places. And normally with a ransomware, you'd see it read in the file and then encrypt it and write it back to the file. But here we're just generating random bytes, basically forwarding it and writing it to a file. So this program is actually just a wiper and not an actual crypto or ransomware. It's just overwriting files and wreaking havoc on the system. And then it recurses through all the directories, child directories, and it calls itself on everything there. So it just operates on one thread, and it goes through and just encrypt. It pretty much just wipes the file system for any of those targeted file extensions. But it still drops a ransom note, and then it also does something interesting. So down here, with this clipboard notification class, and so one of the things happening in this class is that it's registering using these native methods that we talked about before. So in the .NET runtime, normally you're only calling methods that exist in the .NET runtime. Like when we use like system.io.getFiles or something like that, it's all happening within .NET, using like the various .NET libraries. But we can also call it to native DLLs and make calls to native code where needed. This usually happens when you need to make calls on a little lower level, and in malware, that's something that happens fairly common. So in this case, in this class native methods, we're importing two different functions from the user32.dll, add clipboard format listener and set parent. And so in this clipboard notification class, we're registering a clipboard format listener that makes this call. Let's see, handle, we're calling enter clip. We're calling this function. And so what's happening is we're checking, we're doing regex matching with the pattern match against the clipboard contents with this regex filter. And the regex filter that's actually being used is right here. And it turns out this regex filter is used to match on Bitcoin wallets. So essentially what happens is that what this actor is hoping is that people will take their builder, swap out the crypto addresses in the builder, so people think they're going to get the ransom paid to their wallets, but then it actually just swaps out the wallet address in the clipboard and pays the actor that made the builder instead of the actor that used the builder. So it's pretty sneaky. That's the type of stuff that gets you banned from forums. So I thought this was pretty interesting. It's a fairly lame sample. Would not recommend running it, but definitely goes to show that actors are trying to play off of the hype and become the next big ransomware star, which I would not recommend anyone watching do. So anyways, this is moderately interesting. Are there any questions before we move on to the main event? While I wait for the stream delay, I'm gonna throw this sample into the GitHub folder for this. And if you go to that link, you can see the stuff that we're working on today up on my GitHub. There we go. Okay, unfortunately the gloves are coming off. It's a little too hot. Okay. Cool. All right, I just pushed this sample up to that GitHub folder. So if anyone's interested in doing their own analysis and seeing how .NET malware analysis works, that's a good sample that you can take a look at. It's pretty simple to understand, and it gives you a good foundation on utilizing dnSpy and going through the motions of clicking through stuff and understanding the functionality and linking up like UI elements to code and things like that. So that sample is up on the GitHub now. I don't see any questions in the Twitch chat or on Discord, so I'll go ahead and continue. Cool, okay. All right, so to do this analysis of the MountLocker sample, which is also up on GitHub already, I'm going to be using a tool called Ghidra. Ghidra is a software reverse engineering tool. It was developed by the NSA. It was released publicly a few years ago. It's written in Java, for better or for worse. Not a big fan of Java, but it's getting a lot of community support built into it, which is nice. The GitHub is super active. I'll stop. Ghidra. There we go. Okay. So yeah, there's tons of activity happening in the repo, and people are really building a lot of functionality. The most recent release, version 10, introduced debugger support, which is pretty nice. I haven't had a chance to actually try it out or use it, but it's a really good tool for doing binary analysis, especially if you don't have $5,000 to spend on IDA and the relevant decompilers. So in Ghidra, I've already created a project, but I'm gonna open the code browser, which is the green dragon icon. Then I'm gonna go ahead and import this sample. We can use the default options here. The format is asking about the format of the file. Usually it will auto-detect these correctly, and only for weird, obscure things you'll have to do it yourself. But this is an x86 binary. It's little endian. It's 64-bit. I'm not sure what the default one is, and the Windows is the platform. Oh, variant, okay. And then we're just going into there, and then we'll call this MountLocker. Cool. So I haven't done much analysis of this before. I did a little bit just to make sure it got lit up and everything. But you'll be able to I'll kind of explain my thought process as I go through this, and we can figure out what's happening in this binary. Another thing we're going to be doing is taking notes. I use a tool called Notion to take notes on analysis and things like that. I think it's a pretty successful tool. You can build templates and link pages between each other. I'm sure there are tons of other features that I'm not mentioning, but I found it to be a pretty good tool to use. So I'll be taking notes here, and then afterwards I can put a PDF of these in the GitHub as well. Let me throw that at whoops. I'll throw that over here on the other screen. Perfect. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is just go to the entry point for the program, which Ghidra highlights in pink, and then pull up the decompiler. So on the left, this is the assembly code. This is the raw assembly that is disassembled from the actual bytes in the file into something that's human readable. So this is fairly low level, and this is a one-to-one representation of what these bytes are. And then on the right, we have our decompiler view. This goes through the Ghidra analysis engine to identify what this code looks like in what's called pseudo-C. So this is similar to what the original source code looked like, assuming it was written in C, but this is being generated by analyzing the assembly code and building a representation. So it's very, very powerful for analysis to help you, as an analyst, go quicker through samples and understand what's happening at a high level. But sometimes it's wrong, and it hides things and obscures the actual meaning, and so it's good to have them both side by side. This is a much better view by default than what IDA does. IDA will have only one on screen at a time, but having them both open, I find it to be super helpful because you can quickly glance between them to see if something is wrong or something doesn't make sense. And as you click, it highlights what part of the code you're looking at on both sides, which is nice. Okay, so now there are kind of two different routes that I can take. Since there aren't any symbols in the binary, I don't know what any of these functions do yet. As we go through and figure out what things do, we can rename them, which is something I would strongly recommend as you go through things. Leave notes for yourself, write a ton of comments in the binary. We can use is it semicolon? Yeah, we can use semicolon to put comments in the decompilation. And my comment one. This is a comment. Don't you just love live demos where it doesn't work? So this will we can add comments to our code, which helps us leave notes and understand what's happening in the sample. And we can rename functions as well. Once I know what a function is, I will rename it. And another route we could take, since we don't know functions, is we can look at the strings in the binary. It's very common for malware to encrypt their strings so that you can't easily understand what's happening. but doesn't look like that's happening here. We see a ton of strings. Looks like there's some logging happening here as well. Yeah, there's a ton of strings here. So this can give us a really good idea of what's happening in this sample. So a lot of processes. I'm guessing that these are things that it wants to kill. Like things like Process Explorer and Procmon. Those are being used by analysts such as myself. MySQL, if this sample is trying to encrypt databases, it won't be able to actually modify the database files on disk if the database engine is running. So it's common for ransomware variants to try to kill various database engines so it can then encrypt the raw files back in the database. So we saw there's Access, we saw MySQL, SQL Agent, I think that might be SQL Server. Here we have SQL Server itself. So all the things like that. Also, it's also common to see like email programs. You have Excel and PowerPoint, things like that. Looks like there's a lot of logging happening here. These look like arguments for the program. That's my guess. More logging. Stats. Wow, there's a lot of logging. And these are probably used to import functions. And I'm guessing this is the ransom note. Yep, it definitely looks like the ransom note. Cool. So we have a lot of good information here. So the route that I'm taking is called static analysis, where we load it up in a tool and we manually click through and look at the data without running it. Another option is called dynamic analysis, where we actually run the sample and observe what happens. I'm going to start with static analysis, but we might run it later and see what happens. Let's see. So at this point, I'm just going to kind of click through and explore the control flow and see what's happening. Oh, here we go. Okay, so these definitely look like it's controlling options. So let's see. This function is being used a lot. I'm guessing it's parsing strings. Yeah. So it's a command line to argvw. External long wide string pointer. Okay. So this function, let's actually look it up on MSD and just verify what's happening. I'm guessing that it like returns a string representation of the command line arguments. Parses a Unicode command line string and returns an array of pointers to command line arguments. Interesting. Okay. So this function is being used to pretty much access the command line arguments. So when these actors are in an environment and they're ready to kind of monetize the intrusion, they'll take this binary, they'll spread it everywhere in the environment, and then they'll use something like psexec to run the binary across many systems at once. And as a part of that, they can specify these flags to control what happens. So it looks like there are some credentials being used, logging, network, I'm guessing some like spreading related things. Fast, min, max, marker, lock. Yeah, so there's a lot of options here that we can dig into. Another thing I want to note is that it's important to not rabbit hole and get stuck on understanding every single line of the code. At this point, when we're doing like this surface level analysis, our goal is to get a general understanding of the program and kind of assess its capabilities. If at some point we decide that we want to get super in-depth and understand literally everything that's happening at a very low level, then we can kind of dig more into it and get more detailed on the analysis. But right now the goal is to get a general understanding of the sample, how it works, and then go from there. So I may skip over things or not go as deep on other things, and that's to avoid kind of rabbit holing and sidetracking the analysis. Because the goal here is to understand what this ransomware does, and kind of build an understanding about what it does. So let's see, is it NL? So I can press L to rename this variable. So let's call this arg string pointers. And so that's being used in a lot of places, along with this res8 variable. So what was the arguments to this? We have the command line, then the number of arguments. Let's see. Int. Okay, cool. So this is the number of arguments. So that this function stores the number of arguments in argc, and then I guess technically this is argv, to use the more canonical terms. Oh, do they save them? Okay, cool. Perfect. So these are global variables in .data. So it looks like, I'm guessing this is parsing out command line options. Let's see. So how is this being called? It's being called, let's see, the argv, argc, and then the target string. So we can rename this as well. Argv, argc, oops. Argc, and then we have the target arg. Yeah, so this function is looping through the argv array and trying to find one that matches the target argument. And it finds one, then it returns it. Perfect. So now this is the value of the logon flag. Login value. And this is our password value. And then, let's see. I'm not sure why Ghidra represented these differently. Looks like they're in the same general. I'm not sure why these are different. I think they're effectively being used the same way. Looks like these are just Boolean values, because we got this comparison that returns a Boolean. So we can call this the console flag. Let's standardize this. Logon flag, password flag, and this is our no del flag, no kill flag, no log flag, share all flag, forehead cam flag, yeah. Maybe we should tilt the camera down a little bit. Let's see, where's OBS? There you go. That might be better. So let me turn the music down a little bit. Okay. Cool. And so we parse some of the flags, then we are making this function call. Let's see what's happening here. So okay, if the login is null or the password is null, or these are null strings, XML pointer. So this is ZEXT816. I think means 0 extend from 8 bytes to 16 bytes. So the XMM registers, I think, are 16 bytes wide, if memory serves. So we're storing this there. I think this is just zeroing out these values. Oh, this might be parsing it like a domain name or something. Let's see, because we're checking if there's a slash in it. So, like for a NetBIOS style username in a AD network, you have something like that. So I think it's checking to split the domain from the username. Let's see, we're still kind of forehead camp, but it's close enough. Okay. Let's see, what does strcharW return? I actually don't know. Does it return a Boolean or a pointer to the occurrence? When I do malware analysis, I do a whole lot of Googling. Okay, PC start, I match. Returns address, the first occurrence of the character, or null. Okay. So this is the pointer to where that is. If it's null, this gets anded. Okay. That there is a domain. Let's see. There is a domain. Login flag. Okay. So if there's no domain, we're subtracting the address of the slash from the base of the address. This is giving the length of the domain. Domain string. Okay. Okay. Yeah, renaming things is so helpful. So then this pointer becomes just the username because we're offsetting the pointer by 1, which eliminates the slash from that pointer. And then if that is not null, and that is not null, we are allocating some heap memory. Let's see here. Heap alloc. How does heap alloc work? I think this might be doing some. I assume it's just allocating memory on the heap. That's a lot of arguments for that. Heap flags and bytes. Okay, so the memory is zeroed out. We're allocating domain string with len plus 3. Let's see. Let's stand up now. My watch is yelling at me. Also, it's hard to read the screen with these on. Sorry. Wow, so much brighter. Magic. Okay. So let's see. So we allocate memory on the heap. We're not controlling the address at all. So let's see. So now we're getting the length. So login flag is a pointer to a string. This is also a pointer. I don't understand what's happening here. We do a subtraction. I think they're the same parameters. Did you get them at Costco? If so, then there's a very good chance. Come on. I don't know. Whatever. If they're the same, then they are. I can get this focus. Yes? Okay, yeah, they're probably the same then. Very nice. Okay. This is very odd arithmetic. So we subtract this pointer, which doesn't make any sense. Because this is a random pointer on the heap. I also think stream might be lagging. My internet's not great, and there's this indicator OBS that keeps going to red. And the bitrate graph on Twitch is like a heartbeat monitor. So yeah, I don't think it's just you. Okay, so it does this subtraction that doesn't make any sense, and then it does some addition, and then just stores it back there. I think this is the compiler. No, this actually got compiled in. Are we copying it a character at a time? It's like Pormian string copy. Okay. Yeah, so essentially this function is parsing out the username and the domain. Pretty much. So when we finish this, what do we have? Your length. +1. So you get set to a pointer. This is very interesting. Okay, essentially that's what this function is doing. It's parsing out domain from username. Very interesting. Okay. Oh, I need the little map thing. Okay. So, okay, that's this function. Okay, so now we can continue naming things. Maybe because my watch thought I was standing. The detection is not very good. If you've been sitting at your desk for 8 hours, you should stand too. It's healthy, apparently. Okay, what else is happening here? I'll rename things when I have my other hand. We parse things, Now we use a separate function for parsing. I didn't join your stream to be attacked like this. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you gotta stand. Standing for standoff, sorry, fake news. It's a good meme. It's a good meme. I kept that up for many, many months. It was worth, because my watch would keep yelling at me. It's like, hey loser, stand up. It's like, fine. Piece of technology that I paid for, that I wear on my wrist every day. I will oblige Mr. Tim Apple. Okay. I think this is parsing like int values. That's my guess. Do it. Drink your water. Water break. Go get hydrated while we look at int value parsing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this just parses ints. Let's see, yeah, because that's 0. If 9 less, then we're doing math. Not sure why we would do that. Okay, let's just call it, we'll call it this. So you're arg B, arg C. Oh wait, why are there 4 arguments? Are there actually 4 arguments? Is this like a default value maybe? If param. Yeah, this is like a default value. Okay. Does Red Bull count? Is water on the ingredients list? If so, I'm gonna give you a solid maybe. Parse int arg value. First ingredient is water? Heck yeah, that counts. I'll tell my mom that, but it counts. Okay, return default val. Don't return it. Okay, we do return things. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's what this does. So here's another malware analysis trick. If you have enough context for what a function does, and you don't feel like going through like all the math to go figure out exactly how it's doing int parsing, and you're kind of doing like a summary level analysis, it's okay to just assume. Worst case, you got that part wrong, and other stuff later won't make sense, and you go back and figure it out. But I'm like fairly confident that this is doing int parsing, because it makes sense from the context. Like min and max, like it makes sense for these to be integer values. So, and like if this is a default value, like that makes sense. So, okay. Fast flag. Nope, no semicolon, please, or no colon, or apostrophe. I know what things are called. Okay, min flag, max flag, full PD flag, marker flag, no lock flag. I'm not too sure what's happening here. 5E, 4E. Are these... Oh my gosh, I hate keystrokes sometimes. In IDA, you can tell it to like represent this as a character. Convert to char sequence. What? Okay. Alright, now we can demonstrate everyone's favorite tool, CyberChef. From hex or C. Beautiful. And then what else do we have? 4E. And then we have 5.3 and S. Cool, okay. So let's see, we have 3 different flags here. LNS. What bit is being set here? If that minus... Okay, I don't fully understand what's happening here. We're gonna come back to this. I think based on when we see what this actually is used for, I think this will make more sense. Okay. Does this get used here, or does it get used somewhere else? Okay. So we're gonna call this, we're just gonna name this related to no lock, and then we'll come back to it. No lock flag L. No lock flag N. No lock flag S. So as you go through samples and analyze them, even if you're not sure what something does, if you have like a guess or something, rename it. Because you may think, oh, I'll remember dat 140013790, but you're not going to. Don't lie to yourself like I have to myself. Okay, you gotta rename that stuff. So just give it some name. Like I've even had functions like does to stir copy and then memcomp. Like, okay, that name isn't very helpful, but it's not func 14004 something. So it gives you some way to like mentally distinguish those functions, and as you learn more about the program, you figure out what's happening, you go give them better names. So there's some advice to you. Okay, can I make you a sane data type? Convert it to char. There we go. Convert char. Okay. Else. Default no flag val maybe. I also put maybe at the end of things I'm not sure about, just so I don't forget. I found that to be fairly helpful. Okay, this is params flag. Cool, so this just parses parse CLI args. Beautiful. Okay. Oh, I think I skipped this one. Target. Let's see what's happening here. Is this being set somewhere else? If... Okay, this is an array of targets. Target, flag, array. Target count. Okay, so we're indexing an array of pointers for whatever the target flag means. Maybe it's like computers to spread to or like directories to encrypt. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Okay. Cool. All right. Arg parsing done. Find references to. So you get called here. Okay. So we parse our CLI args, and then we call this function. Ooh, lots happening here. All right, cool. Ooh, this looks like a logging function. That's my guess. Lots of interesting stuff happening here. Okay, cool. So, co-initialize X. I have no idea what this does. Let's find out. Initialize the COM library. Okay, so we're calling COM functions. Interesting, okay. And then co-initialize security. Register security and sets a default security value to the process. Interesting. What if this is being used as like a privilege escalation technique? Let's see, we're calling it with a 0. Interesting. However, S will never be chosen authentication. Okay, so this is set to -1. Interesting, okay. 0. There's not a whole lot of things being set here. Okay, must be 0. Yeah, these are always fun to find. This is how you do backwards compatibility for 25 years. Default authentication level. Okay. 3. Impersonation level. Yeah, I think this is definitely being used for some sort of like privilege escalation thing. That's what my spy sensor are telling me. I don't fully understand what it's doing or how it's doing it, but that's just my gut take. I could be wildly wrong. Interesting. Okay. So, like I said before, not rabbit holing on certain things for a while, it would take a lot of reading to fully understand exactly the implications of what's happening here, but until it becomes such a point where it's critical to understand that specific part, I'm going to move past it. But it's definitely something interesting to look into more. Initialize critical section. Okay, so now we're setting up some logging. This is good. Is this a log file name or something? Why didn't you take the name? Okay, there's no log. It doesn't say where the log should go though. Okay. So our file name ends in .log. Then we're creating a file. Or do you return a handle? Yeah, you do. Okay. Perfect. So I think this flag is being used to signify that logging was set up correctly. I don't see the value getting used anywhere really. References, find references to. Nope, that's not what I want. Okay. Okay, I'm not too worried about that value. Okay, so we're setting up our logging. So this is, I think, a case of our decompilation tricking us. So it looks like the log handle is being set into here, or like some property is being read off of it. So that we have a file pointer. I think this is doing like fwrite or something. Yeah, VA. Like this is like fprintf or something. Or like a jank version of fprintf. Enter critical section. What is this doing? Is this for like concurrency? Yeah, this is, I guess it doesn't like multi-threading. Because this is like preventing locks, like racing the log file. So I guess instead of doing your own locks, you just let Windows lock for you? Okay, that's cool. So, right console W. Okay, so this is the console file, console handle. Okay. Desktop chars right, local Lockster. Interesting. Okay. Yes, this is just doing our logging output. Cool. Okay. Beautiful. I'm not super concerned about the arguments for that. Okay. Init admin. Does it return a Boolean? It does. Is user admin. Oops. I find it very odd that I can use all sorts of weird special characters and variable names. It just looks wrong because it would just GCC would just have an actual stroke if I did that. Okay. Okay, so we're checking. Let's see, the no flag. 4. I wonder what this target file is. Maybe this is like specific processes or specific things that it's encrypting. Instead of like doing the whole thing, maybe it just encrypts a few files. Let's see, are we calling some encryption stuff? Oh, no, there's like new drives and targets to do. Okay. Okay, that makes more sense. Let's see, a work target. We have fgets. Maybe it isn't just log, is it? Using it as like a temporary data store and parsing data back out of it? And then it warms. Okay, that's interesting. Create event A, create semaphore A. Thread start routine. Okay, so create thread is being used to spawn a new thread calling this function. Huh. Maybe we should just run it and see what this log looks like. I'm very curious because it's looks like it's writing data into it and then parsing it back out. Yeah, let's do that. That'll be fun. Okay. So in preparation for this, I'm going to save Ghidra and close it out. And then make sure that I have a snapshot, which I do. So after we run it, I can blow it away and go back to the snapshot, and then we can do further analysis. Okay. Since we saw some references to shared drives, I'm also going to disconnect my network share. Cool. All right. Shall we run some ransomware? So is that big enough? No, probably not. How do I make this bigger? Font. Cool. All right, that looks pretty big. Alright, cool. So there's our log. Where... Oh, interesting. It's literally logging every single thing that it's encrypting. It's very interesting. Okay, so let's look at this. So it's gathering system info, command line. Ha, there's a typo. Is that a flare? It's a flare root name. Interesting. Will you actually update the size? You will not update the size. It's still chunking. Let's see. Is that Proc1 or Process Explorer? If it's Proc1, my VM's gonna die, I'm pretty sure. Okay, good. Let's see, did it migrate? It did not migrate. So let's see. Disk and network. Let's see, it's doing a good amount of disk I/O. Gee, I wonder why. Cool, so once that finishes, I assume it's going to drop out a ransomware note for us, which we actually saw in the strings there. I want to say this is beaconing on the network, or at least trying to. 4632. Filter. So this tool I'm using right here is called Proc1, or Process Monitor. And also monitor all the Windows API calls that are being made. So I'm filtering for just our ransomware process, and then just for network stuff. So let's look at the file set and see what's happening. See, it's chonking away. We're encrypting all of Sigla now. Yes, sysinternals, godsend. Such a great piece of tooling from Microsoft. They got something right there. Yeah, so it's definitely multi-threaded here, which makes sense because we saw all the things with the locks. This is gonna take a while, probably. Yeah, it's chonking along, that's for sure. That's curious. I wonder how this is being calculated in Process Explorer, because it's definitely chonking along. Maybe like it did migrate some of those. System idle process with 41% CPU. Doubt. Or maybe that is just idle? What the heck? Hardware interrupts? That makes sense. Oh. Well, proc mod's really doing a number on it. That makes sense. I gotta clear it every so often, otherwise my computer's kind of an aneurysm. Let's see, how's my system doing? I'm using 28 gigs of memory, that's pretty good. Oh, good, we have a ransom note, cool. Interesting.
What the f was that?
Okay, so this kind of makes sense as a ransomware site. So since there's no key here, they're doing a lot of exfil. Like I assume there's gonna be some network stuff that exfils the key out. I'm not sure if we're gonna see it here because my network is disconnected. Might. I can't remember exactly how it works. Let's see, I can turn on the next hop in the network. I wrote a script that does this for me. I forget how I did it. Oh, it's pcap. Oh, it's just on the VM. Okay. Cool. So this should, I think it has a network connection. Oh, that looks pretty, that looks encrypted. They're not txt.read manual. Interesting. Okay. Wonderful, see it. Oh, that's right, it goes through my PO sets. Oh, I can't copy paste into there. It's a garbage passer, but I still don't want to leak it. Oh, nice. Looks like I need to test this script more. Okay. Anyway, so at this point, I think we've kind of run our course for the dynamic analysis, at least just observing. So there's some interesting takeaways. We've seen what the ransomware looks like. We saw it in the actual script. I mean, in the code. But we can see how it gets built now. So a client ID is being generated, which we can go take a look and see if we can track down how that works. Then we see what these encrypted files look like. Let's see. I just do CyberChef. Will you find the local file? I think there's CyberChef in the Flare VM. Yeah, there we go. Okay. This is the easiest way on how to do a hex dump on Windows. So we open a file as our CyberChef input, and then we'll go do that readme that got encrypted. Encryptory node. Cool. So yeah, that definitely looks encrypted. So there could be like a key, like a public key. So there are like different like encryption schemes that ransomwares use. Like it could be like RSA encryption, and then they generate a key per file or like a key per system. And then they encrypt that using the operator's public key, and then that gets sent to the server. Or it could be something else. I think I'm only going to share for like 15 to 30 minutes longer. Probably with a lot of viewers are on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast, so I start this stream really late, and then I'm pretty tired, so I can't go very long. For those of you watching, is this like beneficial? Are you learning anything? Is this, I guess, enjoyable? Is it productive? It's rad. Alright, I'm glad. Okay. Let's see, is this still running? It finished running, okay. You're welcome. Yeah, this is fun. I gotta figure out a better schedule to this, I guess. Because like once I start my new job on Monday, I'm not gonna have time to stream very much. But maybe like once a week I could do something fun. I think that could be cool. Yeah, you gotta make sure you're in a VM. If you're not in a VM, you have a really bad time. Okay, yeah, sounds like people are liking it, so I'm happy to hear that. And now we're gonna go full lazo and sit down. Sure, yeah, I need to, I think like I can feel like my analysis like greatly diminishing because I'm like verbalizing everything I'm doing. It's like, wow, I'm actually really stupid half the time. Like I go Google so many things. Like there's so many Windows APIs. I just haven't done enough of this that I can just like, oh yeah, I know like what that does. Like I do a lot of Googling just to make sure I'm not going crazy. So I think this definitely helps me be a better analyst. It just takes a lot of time and water because my throat is dry from talking for 2 hours. Cool. Okay. I want to pull out this log and everything. He'll probably like seeing some streaming the process. Yeah, I'm happy to validate everyone else Googling because I Google a lot. I'm pretty dumb too. Okay. Yeah, I want to save some of this so that we can compare it to the analysis once I go blow this VM back to the snapshot. VM settings. Yeah, I just forget how to use a computer when I'm streaming. Or when like there are people watching. It's like, yeah, there we go. Okay. Nope, I tried. Close enough. Mount outputs. Okay. We have that. We have that as well. Okay. Cool. I've learned more from this than I did from it. Yeah, data is actually garbage. Yeah, to all the OSU people watching, do not take CS 373. That class is a piece of trash. Oh wait, is my Geedra project? Oh, I think I just nuked the Geedra project. Oh. Oh. I don't think it was on my VM share. Okay, stream might be ending a little early. Oh, that was an amateur move. Yikes. Alright guys, even the ones that think they know what they're doing a little bit still delete stuff by accident when they blow with a snapshot. Whoopsie! I took data just to like make sure it was as garbage as I had heard. Trash. I wrote like a 4.5 page review for ESET, for like the teacher evaluation. Hopefully something actually happened. Obviously nothing happened. Hopefully something will eventually happen. It gets onto someone's desk where that they can finally understand how garbage that class is. Speaking of garbage, am I garbage? Did I delete my teacher project? I did. Oh my god. I wholeheartedly agree. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, I deleted the Gauger project. I think that's where we're gonna wrap up the stream for today, though. Are there other questions or things that I can answer, or does anyone have any requests for a future stream? Other things that we can look at? Cool. Not seeing any other messages come in. So if you do think of something, go hit me up on Twitter. I gotta plug myself, right? That's how streaming works. You have to promote all of your social media shamelessly forever. So yeah, this was fun. Yeah, if you have any, explain Kerberos. Okay. So Kerberos has tickets, and then there are more tickets that like grant tickets, and there's signing, and there are service principles, and other things that are magic. Like I've got a full itty lao of stuff that's going and running. I actually don't know why some of this is running, but we can do some like 80 stuff on it. That could be fun. Could do like Bloodhound or something. That could be cool. Maybe we'll do that. The deeper goal curves. Yeah. It's like the opposite of the Bomber Peak. Like you start like I'm comfortable in what I understand. It's like, oh wait, I have my iPad. Yeah, I really leveled up my stream game for today. I got like iPad screen sharing working. Oh shit, that's my Apple TV. Whoops! Continue trial. That's on stream, right? Where's my pencil? Yeah, it's like the inverse Bomber Peak. So at this point, you know that you don't know anything about Active Directory, or about Kerberos or whatever. And then as you do more research, you're like, wow, I really don't know anything. And then it keeps going, and then it keeps going, and then when you get here, it's like you've read like half of docs on Microsoft.net or whatever. And then you start rounding the bend, you come up, and then you invented Kerberos. That's pretty much it. Yeah, Bloodhound on small scale is great. Bloodhound on the big work scale is insane. It's like, oh, you want to query something? Come back in 15 minutes or your laptop catches on fire. Because that's what happened when I did it. Cool, yeah, we can do an AD stream. That could be fun. I need to learn more about like AD stuff. So I can't be like I know things and will teach it. Yeah, when I was streaming the Bloodhound stuff at work, that was a nightmare. That was crazy. Yeah, we could go through it like an actual small scale. I could build like a vulnerable thing and we can go through it. There's like we could also do an Active Directory hack the box. There's a live one that is that's 80, and then we could do a retired one that has 80 because I'm sure there are a bunch. There's a retired insane box that you could do petit potom. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's French and I'm uncultured. But yeah, we do some cool AD stuff. That's a good idea. We can do that sometime. I don't know about next week because next week is my first week, but at some point before I start school, we could do an AD stream. That could be fun. We could combine Hack the Box and Active Directory. Cool. Well, thank you. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks to Windows Defender for breaking my VM. And yeah, thanks to VMware Snapshots for ending the stream. Cool. All right, have a good evening.